Before Aiken Chia became one of Singapore's most recognizable YouTubers and food content creators, he was a broke 20-something-year-old who has spent years auditioning, collecting rejection after rejection, and was on the verge of quitting media altogether. But it was that mix of setbacks, resilience, and unwavering support of his community that has shaped him into the creator that he is today. From his breakout years through producing a popular series called Food King to now being an independent creator building his own channel, Aiken has created a body of work that blends food, travel, storytelling, and raw personal conversations, including one of his most talked about videos where he sat down with his mother to unpack her 18-year affair. So, in this episode, we revisit those early struggles, explore the turning points that gave him hope, and unpack the values that continue to guide him in his journey today. Let's dive in. Every Edits History interview runs about 60 minutes, but only 2/3 make it into the final cut. The rest, the 33% that I left behind, actually lives in the Annotations newsletter. This is where I share the insights and step-by-step strategies that happened after the mic was turned off. Think of this as your companion guide to the episode. You can subscribe to the Annotations newsletter at cheryllao.com/email. Again, the link is cheryllao.com/email. Aiken.
Hey.
You've said before that character is more important than talent. And that was something that I thought was super profound because you were talking about how talent can just disappear overnight, but it's the integrity and being congruent that matters more. And I love how you framed it because it's like saying that you can show all you want in front of the camera, but what matters a lot is behind the camera.
Yeah.
Has there ever been a time when that belief was tested?
I think it didn't happen for me personally, but I have been in social circles or professional circles where unfortunately I think like the stuff behind the camera caught up to people. So I've seen a lot of people suffer from a lot of the consequences of the decisions they've made off camera. And that's really made me go like, okay, I think I have to tend to my inner world and who I am off camera, not just on camera, and that will overflow out to what people see on camera. Yeah. So has there been a time where that has been challenged? I don't think so because my focus was always like, okay, let's make sure that work is work and I'm able to hold this success loosely. Yeah. So I came in before I was commercially successful, going like, if this finishes tomorrow, I would be okay.
And I actually now want to go back in time a little bit even further because I know that in the early days of your career, and I've watched a number of your interviews, you have a rich history of different roles you've taken on in your career. And I remember back in the early days, you've said that you would do all the auditions that you could find and you would be constantly practicing the scripts and facing rejection after rejection.
Yeah.
So looking back, is there a particular rejection or like an audition that still sticks to your mind today?
Oh, yes, definitely. I won't name the company, but they literally just told me like I was too fat for the role. Like I was too fat in general. Like the immediate comment was on my appearance. And I think that's where it really, like that's the one that comes up immediately when you ask the question. Because I was just thinking like, whoa, there's really a lot more to me if you can't see through like my singing, my acting, my hosting. And that was the one comment. And I was like quite taken aback. Yeah. So that was a rejection that stuck. And then it brought me to a crossroads of whether I needed to change who I was to fit into their mold, or do I just go like, okay, this is not for me? Like, I get it. Like, even if I was bigger in size back then, the question would have been, would I just want to change for them or me? So I decided that at that point of time, yes, I could shed a couple of pounds. I think it'll be important. I'll look healthier. But I think I realized like, but if those are your values and that's what you're looking for, then I don't think I'm aligned with that as well. Yeah.
Wow. How old were you when that comment happened?
23, 24. something like that. Yeah.
Wow, and that I feel like early 20s is still when we're kind of like shaping our sense of self.
Yeah.
So wow.
Yeah. Yeah. I had to go like, okay, look, I know that there is a baseline level of ability and talent, and this just isn't the right fit for me. Yeah. Yeah.
What if you had gotten that comment today, hypothetically? If you had gotten that comment today, how would that land differently, if at all?
I don't know if it will land differently. I think that I would just respect that I'm not a fit for that. But I think I would feel less shaken. I'd just be like, oh, that's totally fine. Because the beautiful thing about content creation is like we get the autonomy, right? And if my appearance is an issue for you, it hasn't been an issue for hundreds and thousands of people who are my audience, so that's okay.
Back in the earlier days, what would you say were your biggest insecurities that you grappled with, by yourself quietly?
Ooh, I think it was coming from a lower income single parent family. I think that there was so many setbacks, or it always felt like I was starting behind the normal line. It always felt like I was way behind. And all I wanted was to just be normal. But I realized that I had such a hard time getting to do so. Like other people would have their parents pay for their tuition fees, but I had to work for it, right? When they're in a new school and they're getting their new laptops, I have to think about the payment plan for my new laptop, So I've always felt like it was harder for me to just be normal. But looking back now, those were the things that have produced so much resourcefulness and resilience in me. I wouldn't say I wouldn't change a thing, but I would say that I value the lessons that it has taught me and the person that it has shaped me to become.
I'm clinging on to that last bit about like it's shaped you into who you are today. Like I feel like intellectually I can see it.
Yeah.
But like I can't help but think like, but how? Like how
Oh,
did it
okay.
shape you? Like is there a specific example?
Yeah. Like when I go through difficult things now, challenges now, it's always framed against the context of my childhood because my childhood was to me very difficult. And so now it gives me a lot of strength and confidence because I go like, I had the resource to overcome that childhood and to make good of it. I'll have the resource to overcome and make good of this challenge that's in front of me.
Were you able to see that when you were in your early 20s and starting off in this career?
No. So like I was in survival mode. And the good thing was that I had friends around who would tell me things like, look, this is shaping something in you, your character in you that's going to be more valuable than money. And at that time I just said, yeah, great. Now can you pay my bills, right? But now I totally get it. Like it has taught me resilience, perseverance, creativity, without being born into that situation and needing to find a way out in that sense. I don't think I'll be where I am doing what I'm doing today.
Wow, it's amazing that you had people around you who could see it when you couldn't at that time.
Yeah. And then my friends, like one of my friends, he always says this. He would always say to me when I was broke. I remember I had this friend, shout out to Andy. I was withdrawing my last like $20 from my bank account. And he's like, okay, look, I'm going to get lunch today, but I'm going to tell you that I know you. And you're going to move past this so far soon. And he just knew. And so now when I've had a little bit more success in my career, he's like, I told you from day one, like you would not have settled for anything less. Yeah. So I'm so grateful because like all my friends are they are now unimpressed by me because they know who I am, right? But at the same time, like I would have not been here if not for like my community and like the people that really invested into me.
It's like during a time when you couldn't I'm like getting a little like ooh, like a little bit in my feels right now because it's like it sounds like it was a time when you couldn't really see the light for yourself like you couldn't maybe you realize like no I'm good at XYZ but like at the same time like you couldn't see steps ahead but someone
100%.
else could see your potential and they knew they were so confident and had so much conviction in you and
can I tell you this other story? The conviction and confidence that my friends gave me, like are absolutely the reason why I'm here today. I remember there was one time I told my other friend Alex, and I said, hey, I'm done with media. I've tried it for 6 years. It's not for me. And I'm dead broke. I can't do this anymore. And then he looks at me and he's like, okay, first let's go to get Mexican food. And they always know the way to my heart, right? So we're sitting down for Mexican food and he says like, I'm going to pay your phone bills till for now, because if you get a call back from your auditions, if your phone line is cut, they can't call you back. You can't get the call back. And so like, it's these moments where I am like soberly aware that many people believed and invested in me even when I lost that belief. And he's like, you are made for this, you cannot quit. I'm going to pay for your phone bills, you're going to get a call back. And I'm just thinking like, wow, I really needed that. So now we're still great friends, and we always go like, wow, we've come a long way from the days that you needed to pay my phone bills. Yeah.
What would you say to that Aiken at that point in time when you're like, phone bills, like I'm done with media? Like, what would you say, like years later? What would you say to that version of him?
Oh man, I would say,
Your friends are right.
yeah, but I would also say like, first of all, you have done really good and you're doing good. I think that when you're on survival mode, you're just trying to get to the next paycheck. You're just trying to make it work, right? But I look at that younger Aiken and I go like, wow, you are doing so good. You are using 100% of your talent, your capabilities. You are hustling, you are working hard, you are facing rejection like a champ. You're putting yourself out there again and again. So I would say you're doing so good, and it's going to get better, a lot better, which I'm thankful it is now, a lot better for me. Yeah.
At what point did you start to see traction? Because there was a time when you were in survival mode.
Yeah.
Traditional media wasn't really
Yes.
panning out the way you wanted it to. When did you start seeing an upwards trend?
So I joined a social media YouTube company after traditional media didn't work out. And I immediately felt the difference, because that was a time where everything was pivoting to social media. So I started to build a platform on social media with the company, and I started to build content and started a food show. And that's where I really started to feel like, whoa, when I did TV, you would work so hard for months and nobody would have watched the project. But now I'm putting my heart and soul into this food show, and people are recognizing me. People are stopping me on the streets and saying, I really love your work and stuff like that. And not just that, because, like being known or having exposure can't really pay the bills. But I think that company was so wonderful. Their founders, like we started this together. And when it was time to pay the bills, like they made sure that I had a stake in the company, and then they paid me. And I think the one time that I felt like, oh, this is real and I've broken through was when they first transferred my first set of shares, like our first payout. And when I saw that amount of money, I was like, oh, this is real. Like this is like gonna be a different life from here on out. Yeah.
What is so interesting to me right now is like at different time points, different people believed in you.
Yes.
But surely the common denominator is you.
Yeah.
So like I can't help but wonder now, like, what is it about you that made people believe in you?
Yeah, so I think my approach to this, to my work, is to number one, recognize that it's work. I think that like maybe like in the new age of influencers and creators, a lot of people didn't feel like, oh, I'm gonna become an influencer. Maybe they made a couple of videos and it got viral or whatever. But for me, I went into each place knowing that I had a particular skill set to offer. And so I'm going to the TV station as a host. I'm going to the previous company that I worked in as a producer, as a host. So I was very clear with those roles. So it was a completely like professional approach to that. So it made me go like, I have something to offer professionally. And I think that's the thing, like when you mentioned that people have come around me, and it's also because I've given them reason to believe in me.
My brain is not fully convinced yet. I'm like, okay, so I know that your skills, the work
Right.
that you put out, for sure, it's of a high caliber, high quality. But my brain is like not fully convinced, because I'm like, but what about you, the person?
Right.
Is there certain values or character traits that you feel
Yeah.
like really showed others that you are someone they could invest in or believe in? Like, what are those defining characteristics?
I love that you went deeper there, because now I think that people tell me that they get the vibe that I'm sincere and authentic, right? But I don't know it any other way. So I don't know whether, you know what I mean? To me, I'm just being myself, right? And then they're like, oh, we feel like you're very authentic and safe. I always remember where I come from. I'm the kid who like came from a single parent low income family. I still live in a 3-room flat. Like I always remember me, like where I came from. So I don't really have I don't really think that I'm anything other than myself. And because I've been treated so generously, I try and do the same. So I try and be sincere, I try and be authentic, and I also try to be generous where I can. And I hope that's enough for people to believe in. Yeah.
Yeah, that was definitely a hard question that I might have put you on a spot there.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think what I'm taking away from what you just shared is that it's not like you're trying to build trust strategically. Like you were
Yeah.
just being sincere and
Yeah.
being yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that a lot of our listeners and audience can take away for themselves, is when you are really rooted in who you are, your story, and your values, and you
Yeah.
let those guide you.
Yeah.
Like people can't help but want to cheer you on.
Yeah, and I'm not a strategist. I'm really not. Like I'm really a creative at heart. So what really makes me come alive is when I get to fulfill my creative ideas. It makes me very happy. But even though, like, of course, yes, you need money, a lot of times I'm just happy to be doing what I love. So I think the sincerity comes from the fact that I love what I do. And if we can all win together in business, doing what we love, then it's a win for everybody. So I really don't have ulterior motives, and I don't have a strategy to get higher or further. Yeah. So maybe that's why they can pick that up, perhaps. Yeah.
People can just sense, like,
Yeah.
they can just feel it. Like, it's like you can't put it into words, but you can feel it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Going back to the point you said, like, love what you do and seeing the idea come to life,
Yeah.
something along those lines. I'm so curious now, because as someone who's always, I'm assuming, has always had that creativity in you, what was that first time when you had this creative idea and you were able to fully execute it to that level of like creative vision that you had for it?
Oh,
Do you remember like what that
I
project
do.
was?
I do. It's still one of my proudest projects. So my mom was supporting this children's home in Kathmandu, Nepal, and my mom wasn't making a lot of money, and she would be sending money over to this children's home, and I go like, why are you sending money to these children's home? Like, the orphan is here, stop sending money to the orphan. And I would be scolding her, right? I would be scolding her and going like, what the heck, like, stop sending our money away. And I would be so angry. One day I just heard somebody talk about humanitarian work, and I go like, wow, there must be something that this speaker and my mom has caught that I'm not catching here. And I don't want to grow up being a very cold, survivalistic person without compassion. So I just went like, okay, fine. And then I, out of nowhere, had this idea that, well, my mom's trying to support a children's home, so I already have that starting point. But I was in the Singapore Army that time, and I had no money, right? Again. So I'm just going like, okay, what can I do to raise money for this children's home in Nepal? Immediately I had this idea, I could get a bunch of friends, we'll write some songs, and we'll record these songs, and we'll sell it in CD form, because it used to, like, right before CDs phased out, I burned the CDs, right? So I was like, okay, so let's do this. And then we aim to raise $5,000 just to pay for rent and food and school fees. And I think like we sold enough and we made $17,000 in a month. Yeah. And then we decided that, we can't just transfer the money and just throw money at them. We want to get to know this home, the people that are living in the home. So we took the money, we flew over to give it to them, and then we're still in touch today, and we're still supporting this children's home today, till now. And I think that was so cool because it was a chance for me to apply creativity love the process, love writing the songs, love recording the songs, and then do some good with it. Yeah.
I feel like not only am I so like inspired by wow, like this is what we can do as content creators. Like
Yes.
what?
Yes. And I wasn't even a content creator at
Yeah,
that
you're
time.
so young.
Yeah, I didn't
You
have
were
a platform.
baby.
I didn't have a platform, which is why I think like people need to realize that you can just start and do it. You don't have to wait till you have a platform, till you're famous, till you're rich. I was broke, no platform, in the army. I had nothing going for me, and I still found a way to effect change.
So I'm like, number one, so just in all that, this is actual impact that creators can do, even if you're just starting out.
Yeah.
Wherever you are at your career as a creator right now, that is within reach. You can
Totally.
create something that adds value or can help someone
Totally.
through your work. And that reminds me of another very memorable quote of yours.
Mm-hmm.
So there was an interview, actually several interviews, I think you shared this before, where you shared that when you would do F&B or hawker episodes for
Yeah.
your past show, you would not charge them.
Yeah.
And that might sometimes mean you would lose money.
Yeah.
And the reason you would do this is because you cared more about celebrating and sharing those stories than trying to make a profit out of it. And the impact of the work matters more. Can you share a story of, so we just shared a story of your little Aiken making an
Yeah,
impact
yeah.
through your content, but what about a few years later, Aiken?
Okay.
Now you're like doing a food show
Yeah.
and creating an impact that way. Can you share a really top of mind story from that phase of your career where your food content really made an impact?
Yeah. Oh man, this one will always stay with me. So we were in Phuket, and I used to go there as a kid, like when I was a teenager, because it was the nearest, cheapest sort of place. I love this pad thai store, and I brought my team over, and I just went like, look, this is my favorite pad thai store, amazing food, you're gonna love it. And my friends, we went, we filmed it, and the video got out. The next year when I went back to Phuket, the owner was like hugging me, holding my hand, and like thanking me. And I'm just going like, what is going on? Like, what does she want to marry me? Like marry her? Like pass me over to introduce to her daughter or something? And then she goes like, your video really, really brought in so many new customers. And I was like, do you know, I didn't even believe it, because I just thought like, look, I just featured you guys for like 3 minutes on the video. I'm like, there's no way. And she's like, it's your video. And I'm like, how do you know? And she's like, I asked a lot of these new customers where they're from, and they will either show me a video or they're from Singapore or Malaysia. And she's like, thank you so much. And you know what the cool thing was? She had done so well for herself after the video. She took over the other store, so they expanded. And I was riding off in my scooter, and I was just thinking like, this is the power of what we can do. And that was really mind-blowing.
I'm in awe because I think a lot of times it's easy for especially smaller creators to feel discouraged by the numbers. And a lot of people will think like, and this is something I struggled with too, because I've been podcasting for 5 years, and sometimes I get a little insecure about my own podcast numbers. And for example, I only recently started really thinking about YouTube. So my YouTube channel is relatively small. And a lot of people have asked me, how did you keep going after 5+ years? And when I get that question, I will always think like, it's not the numbers, because my numbers are not there.
Yeah.
But I still feel some kind of naive, like I feel like I'm doing something good.
Exactly.
I may not really see the clear ROI or like the impact it might directly have on someone, but I believe it's there.
100%.
And I think what I really hope the listeners can take away from your sharings is that even if you're just thinking like, oh, my content is just there, like I don't know if it's really helping anyone, you never know.
You truly never know. And I just want to say that as well, like even having an established YouTube channel, even being more well-known now, I still position myself to do things that may not get me great views, because I love the creativity. I love believing that there is something beautiful about the work that we're doing, whether people take to it well or not, whether the numbers come through. I remember when I look at my team smiling, enjoying the work, when I look at myself like happily going for the shoot, having that podcast conversation, even though it may not be doing as well as the other videos, I'm like, I don't even care anymore. Like recently, I interviewed one of my top favorite singer-songwriters in Singapore, and I listened to her music. Her music has meant so much to me. And when I interviewed her, I was like deep diving into all the songs and all the lyrics, and she just went like, hey, I don't even know if like people will get it. I'm like, yeah, it doesn't matter, because I get it, and it makes me feel so nourished and fulfilled to do this, that we should not just do work just because it will be commercially successful. Yeah, but that it will be meaningful.
On that note, I'm pulling up another quote of yours.
Yeah.
So I don't know where you said this, but you shared somewhere that for your YouTube, you don't do the mid-roll ads.
Oh yeah, I don't. Yeah.
And you like minimize just ads in general
Yeah.
on your YouTube. So the question I have is, but then how do you monetize as a creator?
Yeah. So I have to be very honest, I'm very, very blessed. Most of my monetization comes from short form content on Instagram or TikTok. That allows us to not rely on YouTube AdSense. YouTube AdSense for us, because Singapore is relatively small and our audience is Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, we haven't tapped into majority of those big audiences yet, but we're not able to be getting like a couple million views that will give us really solid AdSense. So it's kind of like AdSense is our rent money and it's okay, but I don't want the ads to be a hindrance to all the hard work that I put into making this video. Because sometimes I realize like when the ad comes out, people just like press back and they go to another video, right? But I want to give my audience like a seamless viewership of the hard work we've put into those videos.
So right now, I know that your YouTube channel, like you have a mix of content. You have some of them are still food and travel related, which you would describe, I've heard you describe as like helping people look outwards. And then you also have like more like deeper conversations that help people look inwards. I think that's how you describe, I've heard you describe it.
Absolutely.
But one thing that I was curious about is that having been known as the food person, the food guy, like did you ever feel boxed in as a creator that you can only create content that people expect of you? Like how was that transition branching out? Like,
right. Yeah, I think I felt boxed in by myself, and I felt boxed in by advice, and I felt boxed in by just people's limited understanding of the industry or social media, right? So everyone says you have to have a niche and all that, and I spent years building a niche. What got me out of that was just realizing like I'm so bored of doing food and travel. I did 200 episodes in my previous show. There has to be more to me, and there has to be more that the audience wants to see. And then I realized I've been going to therapy. I've been trying to deal with my childhood trauma, my stuff, and I realized like a lot of my friends are as well. A lot of people my age are. So if I could, number one, if I could do anything and create any type of content, what kind of content would I create? And I would be like, I just want to be Oprah, because Oprah's talking about these issues and helping so many people till she's like 70, right? She's 70 and she's still doing it. And I thought like I learned like this is the type of content I consume, and I'm confident I could put it out as well. So that's when we decided to take a leap of faith, because I'm like, I'm just gonna try. Even if nobody likes it, even if nobody watches it, we'll still have the food and travel stuff.
What I've noticed about my own consumer patterns is that when I start to really enjoy a creator's like OG content, like the things that you would expect from them, then I want to get to know them deeper.
Right.
Like how do you think? What do you care about outside of this these categories of content that you're known for?
Yes.
And that's also why I decided to start this podcast, because there's a lot of creators that people have come to know and they are familiar with their certain content types, but then now it's like, but what else goes on behind your brain?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and like how do you actually think? What's your thought process like on different things?
Yeah. It's the same for me. Like, when I watch a really good film, I love to immediately go look at the press conference, look at the interviews, because I want to know the process. I want to know the story. I feel like there's so much more than just the piece of work that has been put out, and absolutely resonate on that.
So, what would you say is something that you're working on right now, like in this current season of your life or personal life or career? Like, what's something that you're working on behind the scenes that people may not see?
Ooh. Wow. I think I've I'm always dealing in therapy, I'm always dealing with some level of some aspect of something I'd gone through in the past and how it has presented itself in the present, trying to be conscious of that, work through that. Something that I'm always, I think, dealing with is forgiveness. Yeah, I know it sounds very heavy, but I'm always wrestling with the tension of feeling the emotions of anger and all of that, but then also to come to a place of forgiveness. Yeah, so I feel like I'm always endeavoring to forgive. And this is something that no one else will see or no one else will know about, whether it's extending another layer of forgiveness towards my parents, towards people who have let me down, stuff like that. These are things I'm very conscious about that people may not realize. Like there's sometimes in conversation where I want to talk about someone and I hold back because I'm like, I'm working on forgiving and releasing forgiveness. So I'm going to refrain from bringing this up in this conversation, you know? Yeah. Stuff like that.
When did you first realize that this was an area or a pattern for you that was worth revisiting over and over again?
The honest answer is that I've been either betrayed or let down by a bunch of people, maybe within the last 8 years. So it constantly either surprised me or like I found myself in situations or circumstances that I'm like, whoa, I did not expect this to happen. And I think everybody experienced some level of that, right? In life, you feel like you betrayed, hurt, let down, shocked, surprised. But I think it's what you do with that instance, that episode, that really matters. And so I'm like, look, I can't control that this has happened to me, but I can control my response. And my resolve is always to land on forgiveness, but I understand that to get there, it really is a process.
I know that all of us have our own areas, patterns, things that would be really helpful to revisit, work through, have conversations about, and it looks different for everyone.
Yeah.
I'm thinking specifically for creators whose work is so public facing, and when they're grappling with a lot of like internal things, like that can really get to you.
Oh yeah.
So like, what would you say to a creator who's right now going through like a pretty rough time for whatever reason, whatever circumstance? And it's starting to really affect their creative work, their clarity of mind. What would you offer as a piece of advice or perspective for them?
I would say don't put anything out in public first. In the name of authenticity or being genuine, you don't have to publish every ugly moment or every difficult moment in order to process. You can do the inner work behind closed doors. I think that's a lot more valuable. And when you're in a better space to then bring that gold mine of treasures that you have worked through in the past, I think that maybe a lot of creators feel like I have to be genuine, I have to be authentic, and therefore I'm gonna emotionally trauma dump on and create content about that. I personally don't think that that's my approach. I've made a reel talking about forgiveness once, and it took me 2 years to make it. Yeah, because I had to work through all of those things before I start to speak on it. And I feel like when you then talk about it, you would have so much more substance and weight to your words.
Have you ever posted something a bit prematurely and you're like, I need to delete that?
Thankfully, okay, I don't think so. Oh, okay, yes. There have been instances where I've spoken about my parents. I think the premature part is if I could go back in time and change what I would change is I would have communicated to my parents first and just say, hey, I'm going on a platform to speak about us, and let us establish our relationship, our clarity on this issue before I go speak on it. So that's why I'm a big proponent now for like, let's be really considerate.
Oh, that's good advice, because
Yeah.
I think a lot of creators, they want to share certain lessons, life lessons from whatever season of their life, but there's usually people
Oh,
involved
yeah.
in those chapters or seasons.
Yeah.
And then they're like flip-flopping between like, should I share it, should I
Yeah.
not? But when in fact they can just have a conversation with the person first, or at least get some
Yeah.
clarity of like, hey, this
Yeah.
is what I'm planning to say, and get some like parameters in place.
100%. And even now, there have been like many issues I've chosen not to speak of publicly, but I was wrestling, right, with forgiveness, with like, why did this happen? How could people be like this? But I didn't speak about it publicly. And now when I come back to speak about these instances, I speak about my previous company with a lot of joy and gratefulness, because those things are true as well. It's not just the bad things that are true, but I celebrate that now, and I look and embrace that time and those people now with a lot more perspective, a lot more compassion for them and for myself. And I prefer this side of myself to be in public rather than me putting out like really bad energy in public. You know what I mean? Yeah.
When you would have that conversation with your parents, for example, about like, hey, I want to share XYZ,
Yeah.
because I know that some listeners might be in that position where they want to potentially share something, but they might want to talk to the person first to let them know, hey, this is what I'm planning to say or do. What is a piece of advice or tip that you can share for someone who wants to have that conversation? Like, what's language they can literally use in that conversation?
There are some people that maybe we're not in touch with anymore, right? So it's hard to even establish any sort of connection or parameters. And then I would just choose to speak well of those people, to honor that time, to honor all the good stuff that has happened, and to move on. You can be honest about the process. Like, it was hard to go through that. It was hard to eventually come to forgiveness, but maybe speak about it when we have more resolve. For the people that are still actively like in our lives, I think that good communication is essential for any relationship. So I remember I called my dad up and I said, hey, mom's gonna go on my channel and she's gonna tell her story and her side of the story. And I know that it'll be hard for you to hear, but I just want you to know this is just her side. I know your side. I know where you're coming from. And I may not ever get to put you on a platform, but know that I honor your side. I hear you, and I just want to do this for mom. Yeah, yeah. As long as we can sort of have that preparedness, I think it'll be very worthwhile. It will just also show the other person that we have considered them. Yeah.
And I know which video interview you're referring to. I really want to know now, to even create this particular conversation and share publicly.
Yeah.
I'm sure it wasn't an easy like, oh, I'm gonna do this tomorrow kind of decision. Like, I'm sure there must have had been some wrestling you must have had to even create this space for that conversation with your mom.
Yeah.
What kind of growth did you have to go through to get to the point where you felt like this was the right time to have this conversation and share it publicly?
So, because I had this idea, like I want to be Oprah, I want to talk to people, right? I would love if they could share some of their biggest life lessons and all that. And then I just go like, but I can't just expect people to do that. Like we have to start from home ground first. And I thought, what better way to start from home than to start from home and sort of ask my mom if she'd be okay. I'm not ashamed of my mom, but I realized she was very ashamed of her story, right? And so I just thought, could I give her this opportunity and provide this safe space for her so that she can share her story, she can own that narrative, own her mistakes, but also to really celebrate her. It was one of the hardest pieces of content I ever made, because I didn't expect that it would be so difficult, but during the editing process, I cried for like 4 days through it. And my main thought was like, am I just a product of this messy affair? Am I just an illegitimate child? You know, am I just, yeah, like what am I even doing here? It confronted so much of my core identity. The growth was that I had to ground myself again, going like, but I'm doing this for mom. I'm doing this to honor her story. I am a part of her story, but this is not my story yet. I'll get a chance to tell my story soon, but if I could focus on the objectives, which is let's help mom tell her story as honestly as she can. Let's pray that this story reaches people who might be in the same situation as her and to feel some sort of guidance or comfort or solidarity, you know? And then my third objective was to celebrate her as well. So no one would have ever seen me crying in the editing suite, but I had to put my own feelings aside and choose to do that. Yeah.
Wow.
Thanks for asking that. Truly, nobody would have known that process.
The common thread that I'm getting from our entire conversation so far, I think it goes back to that very first question of character and values, because even with this particular video, this conversation with your mom, so much of it ties back to it's important not just to me and being a creator, but like it's important to my mom also.
Yeah.
And I think what I am really taking away from our conversation today is that when we let our decisions as creators be driven and guided by our values and who we are, and grounding back to what we believe in and what matters to us and the people we care about, I think that we can't go wrong, even on days where it might be discouraging, it might be hard.
Yeah.
You might create content pieces that don't do well, et cetera, et cetera. But when you ground back to your character, that's all that matters.
Yeah. There were some comments that even said like, why are you airing your family's dirty laundry in public? Blah, 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 blah. But like you said, once I had those objectives and values laid out, I was so sure of why I'm doing this that I wasn't affected. I'm like, hey, I know why I'm doing this, who I'm doing it for, and that's enough for me.
So looking ahead at the next 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 or 5 years, we don't know what the creator industry, economy, career, profession would look like.
Yeah.
But what do you think would be the values that will guide you? What are three values that will guide you in the years ahead? Even though we don't know what it's going to look like, but it will. We know it will continue to drive you.
My first and topmost is always integrity. I think that when you have integrity in the way that you conduct yourself, your dealings, your business dealings, the stuff that nobody sees, when you try to be as integrous as you can, it will provide a lot of longevity. It will provide a lot of confidence to be on a platform because you're not hiding some stuff that you don't want anyone to see at the back. You are confident to stand on the platform and own it because you know who you are, what you stand for, what you've built on the inside, not just on the outside. The second thing I would say is generosity. Again, I've been the recipient of so much generosity from my community, my audience, my followers. I really hope that I can continue to give back and be of a blessing to somebody else. So generosity is a value that guide me. And the third is creativity. I think that, let's be practical, right? You have to be so creative nowadays for your content to stand out. And we have got to think of different ways. If I were just doing food content, travel content the same way, if I didn't break out of the box, if I didn't reinvent myself after a couple of years, I wouldn't be sitting here today. So I think that creativity, drive is very important. I would say creativity along with excellence as well. Yeah, you want to be really good. I heard recently on this podcast, someone say the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. And I think if we can bring that drive and that excellence to the craft of what we do, it will also give a lot of longevity. Yeah.
Amazing. I think this really is a great way for us to close out this conversation. I feel like we came full circle in this conversation. So Aiken, where can the people find you on the internet?
Oh, you can just search my name, Aiken Chia, and
yeah, you're pretty easy to find.
Yeah, those my YouTube channel will come up. You get like, I think I love YouTube so much. I'm so glad you're on YouTube. I'm so glad you're on YouTube because YouTube creates a space for depth and, talking deeper. And to everyone who said that TikTok will take over and there'll be no future for long form content. Here we are, still trying. So I think YouTube is. I'm very blessed to still be called a YouTuber. But yes, on TikTok and on Instagram as well. I was very resistant to TikTok. Are you on TikTok, Cheryl?
I only started TikTok to share clips from the podcast.
Great. Nonetheless.
I'm trying.
Nonetheless, yeah. Me too. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, Aiken, thank you so much for being here on our show today.
Thank you.
And to our audience, as always, thank you so much for being here. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Edit's History featuring Aiken Chia. Before we close out, I want to highlight 3 takeaways that really stood out to me. Number 1, character outlasts talent. So Aiken has seen some of his peers lose opportunities not because they weren't skilled, but because of the choices they made off camera. So talent can open doors, but character is what keeps them open. And that matters for all of us. In podcasting, in entrepreneurship, for example, it is easy to obsess over the shiny front-facing work, right? The downloads, the edits, the viral clips. But those things don't sustain you. What sustains you is the reputation you build in the quiet moments. It's whether you follow through on promises to your guests, whether you treat collaborators with respect, whether you create work that you'd still be proud of, even if no one watched. And that's what gives your craft longevity. Because in the end, your work as a creator, it's not judged by the size of your audience, but it's defined by the integrity that went into making that content. Number 2, community in breakthroughs. So there was a time when Aiken was completely broke and ready to quit. But a friend paid his phone bill so he wouldn't miss callbacks. Another friend covered his meals and reminded him that he was meant for this work. And their belief carried him when he couldn't carry it himself. And the truth is, no creator can truly succeed alone. Every standout body of work is a collective effort, whether it's mentors who planted the seeds, collaborators who elevated your craft, peers who shared advice, audiences who chose to keep showing up week after week. When I look at my own work through Edit's history, I see the same thing. This podcast doesn't exist just because I sat down with a mic. It exists because of the guests who trusted me with their stories, the listeners who come back week after week, and the friends and collaborators who've shaped the show in ways that people may not see, right? So what I'm realizing more and more is this. Creative work isn't just an individual pursuit, but it's a community project, if anything. And when your own belief falters, it's often the people around you who will carry you through. All right, and number 3, impact over numbers. So one of Aiken's stories that really sticks with me is that one about that pad thai stall in Phuket and how he featured him in a short video. And when he came back, the owner was hugging him and telling him that so many customers have came because of that video. And that clip that Aiken made was so life-changing for someone else. And that perspective has shaped how he approaches YouTube today. He doesn't run mid-roll ads because he wants to create a meaningful experience for the audience rather than just squeezing out extra revenue. And that really echoes something that I've learned in my own journey. Because my downloads, my views on YouTube, it's risen and it's dipped over the seasons, right? Sometimes they look great and sometimes they don't. But the true value of the podcast, it's not really something I can just flex on Instagram or LinkedIn, but it's really in the conversations that it sparked, the collaborations and opportunities it's created, and the sincere messages from listeners who found clarity or encouragement from the episodes. Because numbers, sure, they can measure reach, but they don't always measure resonance, depth, or meaning. 100,000 passive listens can't compare to 1,000 that truly change someone's path. So here's the question I want to leave you with. Who is being impacted by your work and how? Because in the end, it's not about the size of your audience that matters, but it's really about the weight of your impact. Sounds good? Awesome. Let's get to work. If you enjoyed the episode, well, there's more where that came from. For every episode, I share the bonus insights, strategies, and frameworks through the Annotations newsletter. It is designed to deepen your thinking and help you take action. You can subscribe to the Annotations newsletter at cheryllau.com/email. Again, the link is cheryllau.com/email.